Hello everyone and welcome back. Please subscribe, turn on notifications and leave a comment. Now let tonight's story begin. The job posting appeared on the Federal Jobs Board in February. That should have been my first warning. No one advertises for backcountry ranger positions in February across most of Alaska. The season does not begin until late April, and even then, crews remain minimal until enough snow has melted for routine patrols. But the Harrow Creek District was hiring immediately. The pay was 40% above the standard GS5 rate, and I owed $11,000 to a hospital in Juneau that had begun sending letters containing phrases like final notice and collections. Action. I took the ferry out of Bellingham. 3 days on the water gave me plenty of time to go through the orientation packet they had mailed me. Almost all of it was ordinary material, radio protocols, bare canister procedures, hypothermia response, the standard liability waivers, but fastened to the back was one photocopied sheet. It was unsigned. In the margin, someone had written a note by hand, read first, beneath the heading, Supplemental Intake Procedures for Missing Person Recovery. The page listed 12 items. I read it twice during the ferry ride, decided it was some kind of hazing prank and shoved it into my duffel bag. The station stood 47 miles from the nearest paved road. The only way in was by float plane, or by a 12-mile trail that shut down completely from October through March. My supervisor flew me in himself. His name was Harlan. He was the kind of man who looked as though he had been carved from the same granite as the mountains behind the station, 60 years old, maybe older. During the flight, he said almost nothing except to point out landmarks, the glacier to the north, the closed trail to the east, the recovery shelter, 214 yards southwest of the main station. The station itself was a 2-story timber building with a wraparound porch, a shortwave radio room, and a basement. I was instructed not to enter after dark. Harlan handed me a steel ring holding 12 keys. Each one had been tagged with a number and a location. Key number 7 was labeled, Recovery Shelter. Do not lose. You read the supplement? Harlan asked. The photocopied page. That's the one. I read it. He gave a single nod. Good. Read it again tonight. I'll be back in 6 days with the supply drop. Radio check every 12 hours on Channel 4. Emergency traffic goes through Channel 9, but don't use 9 unless you mean it. Then he left me there with 300 pounds of provisions, a Remington 12-gauge 94 flares, and a log book stretching back 11 years. Most of the previous entries were brief, weather notes, wildlife sightings, but every few pages someone had written MP recovery followed by a date and one word, cleared, processed, and twice within the last 2 years, refused. At the time, I had no idea what refused meant. That first night, I sat at the desk in the radio room and read the supplement again. This time, I copied it into my field notebook exactly as written. The photocopy had faded, and I could not risk misreading a single word. This is what it said. 1. All returning hikers must be processed at the recovery shelter, never at the main station. The recovery shelter is located 214 yards southwest of the station porch. The key is on your ring. Number 7. 2. When a missing person returns, confirm their permit number against the registry before making eye contact. The registry binder is stored in the north cabinet of the recovery shelter. Do not bring the registry into the main station. 3. If a returning hiker addresses you by name before you have introduced yourself, do not respond. This includes your first name, your last name, or your call sign. If this happens, return to the main station without speaking. Radio channel forcing code Nightjar. Do not process that hiker. 4. Between 1:45 a.m. and 2:15 a.m. Do not look toward the tree line north of the station, no matter what you hear. You may look at the floor, the walls, or your hands. After 2:15 a.m., normal observation may resume. 5. If a returning hiker cannot remember the first name of their emergency contact, radio channel forcing code hollow. Do not permit them inside any structure. Wait for instructions. 6. Count the items inside a returned hiker's pack. If the number differs from their registered manifest by more than 3 items, a second ranger must be present during processing. If you are alone, do not process that hiker until the supply drop. 7. Before sundown, confirm that every returning hiker casts a shadow. After sundown, this cannot be verified. Plan accordingly. 8. Do not acknowledge anyone who approaches from Deadfall Trail 7. Deadfall Trail 7 has been closed for 11 years. No legitimate hiker will come from that trail. 9. If you hear knocking at the station door after 11 p.m., respond only after the third knock. Responding to the first or second knock will be treated as a resignation. 10. Missing persons located within 2 miles of the glacier are to be processed only at dawn. If they return during the night, direct them to the recovery shelter and tell them to wait. Do not explain why. 11. If a returning hiker's boots are dry and clean despite current trail conditions, radio dispatch immediately before continuing intake. Do not discuss these procedures with anyone who has been missing for more than 72 hours. I finished copying the list at 11:23 p.m. Outside, the temperature had fallen to 19 degrees. A steady 12-mile-per-hour wind was blowing in from the north. I could hear it passing through the spruce trees like something breathing. I locked the station door, checked the locks twice. Then I went to sleep with the supplement beneath my pillow. First week passed without anything unusual happening. I carried out patrols, inspected the permit boxes at trailheads 2 and 3, counted supplies, and contacted Harlan by radio every 12 hours with weather reports and status updates. In the radio room, the missing persons board displayed 3 unresolved cases: a solo backpacker named Daniel Cross, last seen near the glacier 9 days earlier; a married couple, the Beckers, 4 days overdue; and a wildlife photographer named Claire Ashby, missing since early March. It had already been long enough for the search teams to stop coming, long enough for her fileto be placed in the presumed stack. On the 8th day, the Beckers returned. I saw them at 2:17 p.m., making their way down from the ridge line along Trail 4. They were moving slowly, which was normal for hikers worn down by exhaustion. They were also holding hands, which matched the description in their permit file. I kept them in view through my binoculars for a full 6 minutes before heading to the recovery shelter. The shelter measured 12 feet by 12 feet, plywood walls, 1 window facing north, a metal desk fitted with a bracket and chain for securing the registry binder during intake. There was also a propane heater, a folding cot, and a door that could be locked from the inside. Key number 7 opened the exterior deadbolt. I unlocked the shelter, started the heater, and waited. The Beckers arrived at 2:51 p.m. I know the exact time because by then I had learned to record everything. "Hello?" the woman called. "Is anyone there?" "We're the Beckers. We filed a permit last Tuesday. We got turned around near. Stop there, please." I kept my voice level. "Professional. I need both of you to take off your packs and place them on the ground. Then I need you to read your permit number from your registration card." This was procedure. This was safe. Thomas Becker slipped his pack from his shoulders. His wife did the same. From his jacket pocket, he pulled out a laminated card and read the number aloud. Kior 7392. I opened the registry and checked it. The number was a match. The permit had been filed 6 days earlier. Thomas's emergency contact was his brother in Seattle. First name Aaron. Sir, what is the first name of your emergency contact? Aaron Becker. Ma'am, same question. My emergency contact is my mother. Her name is Leanne. I checked the registry once more. Both responses were correct. Please turn and face the sun. They turned. The afternoon light fell at an angle, but it was strong enough. Both of them cast shadows across the gravel. Thomas's shadow looked perhaps 3 inches shorter than it should have been, but shadows compress at low angles. I recorded the detail in the log. Now open your packs, please. I need to count what's inside. Thomas had 17 items. His manifest listed 15, 2 extra. With intolerance, Diane Becker had 22 items. Her manifest listed 21, 1 extra. With intolerance, mud and pine needles were caked across their boots. I processed them. I signed the recovery form, radioed Harlan with the good news, and escorted them back to the station for water and first aid. They had been lost for 4 days, surviving on granola bars and filtered creek water. They were dehydrated, frightened, and grateful. That night, after a float plane evacuated them, I sat in the radio room and realized that I had not questioned the rules once. I had simply obeyed them. The Beckers had been real, lost, terrified, and completely human. But something else became clear to me as well. I had felt relief when their shadows matched. Relief when I saw the dirt on their boots. Relief when they remembered the names of their emergency contacts. Which meant that somewhere, at some time, those tests had failed. At Harlan's next supply drop, I asked him for the incident archives. He brought them in a sealed plastic crate bearing the label, "Reference only. Do not remove from station. You don't have to read these," he said. "I want to understand. Understanding isn't the job." He placed the crate on the desk in the radio room. "Compliance is the job. But I can't stop you from reading." Inside the crate were 41 incident reports covering 14 years. I spent the next 3 nights reading through them, making notes, comparing their dates with the entries in the logbook. This is what I learned. In 2011, a ranger named Sandra Cole heard knocking at the station door at 11:47 p.m. There were 2 knocks. She opened the door after the second. When her replacement arrived, the station was empty. 3 weeks later, Sandra's boots appeared on the porch. Nothing else. In 2015, a missing hiker named Marcus Webb returned after 9 days. The ranger on duty, a man named Garrett, confirmed Marcus's permit number and emergency contact, but Marcus's pack held 43 items. His manifest listed 12. Garrett processed him anyway, because he was alone and could not follow Protocol 6. Marcus remained in the main station overnight because Garrett felt sorry for him. By morning, Marcus had disappeared. All the maps were gone as well. So were Garrett's notes from the previous 2 weeks. 3 days later, Garrett resigned over the radio. The rescue team found him, walking along Deadfall Trail 7 in the wrong direction. He could not remember his own name. He could not remember how to get home. He is still in a care facility in Coldwater. 2019. A missing wildlife photographer named Naomi Drake came back to the station at 1:52 a.m. The ranger on duty was a woman named Petra Walsh. When she heard Naomi calling, Petra made the mistake of looking toward the northern tree line. She looked for 11 seconds. In the incident report she filed 3 days later from a hospital in Coldwater, Petra described what she had seen among the trees as Naomi, but wrong. Too many joints, a smile stretched too wide, movement like a film running backward. Petra never explained what took place during those 11 seconds. The report stated that she was found the following morning, inside the recovery shelter, with the door locked from the inside, her fingernails torn, and no memory of the previous 6 hours. Naomi Drake was still officially listed as missing. I returned the reports to the crate. Then I checked the locks on the station door. Then I checked them a second time. After that, I copied the rules again, in larger handwriting, and taped them to the wall above my cot. 2 weeks went by. During that time, I processed 4 more hikers who returned. Every one of them was legitimate. Muddy boots, matching permit numbers, correct emergency contact names, shadows confirmed before dusk. The procedure became ordinary. I no longer thought of the rules as random. I began to see them as grammar, the basic structure that allowed communication to happen. But Daniel Cross was still missing. The solo backpacker last seen near the glacier. 33 days now. His file sat on my desk like a weight. On day 31, at 4:12 p., I noticed movement near the glacier. I was standing on the station porch recording the afternoon temperature and wind speed when something caught the edge of my vision. A figure, small at that distance, maybe 2 miles away, moving along the moraine below the ice field. I raised my binoculars. The figure was heading toward the station. Male build, dark jacket, orange pack. Daniel Cross's permit described him as male, 5 feet 10 inches tall, wearing a dark blue jacket and carrying an orange Osprey pack. I contacted Harlan by radio. Possible MP recovery in progress. Daniel Cross approaching from the glacier. ETA approximately 2 hours at present pace. Copy that. Harlan's voice remained flat. Remember Protocol 10. I remember. Process at dawn. No exceptions. Understood. 4. The next hour and 40 minutes I watched Daniel Cross make his way toward the station. His pace remained constant, not fast, not slow. He never stopped to rest. At 6:03 p.m., once he was near enough to see without binoculars, the sun dropped behind the mountains. I could no longer confirm whether he cast a shadow. He arrived at the recovery shelter at 6:29 p.m. I was waiting on the porch 214 yards away, with my flashlight, my radio, and a copy of the rules in my pocket. Hello. His voice carried over the distance. It sounded normal. Tired, but normal. I'm Daniel Cross. I filed a permit. I got lost near the glacier. Is anyone there? I pressed the transmit button on my radio. Channel 4. This is Northwatch Station 9, MP Recovery. Cross, Daniel. Subject arrived at recovery shelter at 6:29 p.m. Sun is down. Requesting guidance on Protocol 10. Static hissed through the radio. Then Harlan answered. Protocol 10 is clear. Process at dawn. Tell him to wait. I drew a breath. Then I walked halfway toward the recovery shelter and stopped. Mr. Cross, I need you to remain in the shelter until morning. There is a cot inside and the heater works. I will bring you food and water, but intake cannot be completed until dawn. What? Why? He sounded confused. Frustrated. Human. I've been out there for a month. I almost died. I need medical attention. Are you injured? No, I'm not injured. But I'm exhausted. I need to come inside. The shelter is warm. You will be safe there. I will check on you every hour. He said nothing for a long time. Then he answered, Okay, fine. Whatever the protocol is. I brought him water, a thermal blanket, and 2 MREs. I did not go inside the shelter. Instead, I placed the supplies on the step outside and told him to collect them after I had returned to the station. From the porch, I watched him open the shelter door, pick up the supplies, and enter. He shut the door behind him. The light came on. At 11:17 p.m., someone knocked on the station door. One knock. I stood in the middle of the room with my hand resting on the logbook and I waited. At 11:18 p.m., a second knock sounded. I remained still. The third knock came at 11:21 p.m. I walked to the door, unlocked it, and opened it. Daniel Cross stood on the porch. He was smiling under the porch light. His teeth looked wet. I couldn't sleep, he said. The shelter's too cold. Can I come inside? The recovery shelter was 214 yards away. I had watched him enter it at 6:31 p.m. Its light was still on. Its door was still shut. I stared at the man standing on my porch. What is your permit number? I asked. I don't remember. I've been lost for a month. What is your emergency contact's first name? He tilted his head. The movement was wrong. Too smooth, as though his neck turned on a swivel instead of a joint. My emergency contact is my mother, he said. Her name is... He stopped. His smile never changed. Her name is Mother. Daniel Cross's emergency contact was his roommate in Fairbanks. First name Owen. I stepped backward and closed the door. I locked it. Then I locked it again. It's cold out here, the thing on the porch said. Its voice sounded exactly the same. Still friendly, still tired. You're being rude. Let me in. I did not answer. I went to the radio room, took the handset and switched to Channel 4. Channel 4. This is Northwatch Station 9, code hollow. Repeat. Code hollowed MP cross presenting at station, door with incorrect identification responses. Shelter light still active. Requesting immediate guidance. The radio crackled, then Harlan replied, copy hollow, confirm shelter light status. I moved to the southwest-facing window and looked out. The recovery shelter light was still on. Through its small window I could make out a shape laying on the cot. Shelter light active, I said. Subject visible inside shelter. Repeat. Subject visible inside shelter. Identical subject, currently at station door. Do not open the door. Do not acknowledge the subject. Maintain radio contact until 4:30 a.m. At dawn. Verify shelter subject with standard intake. Do not process door subject under any circumstances. Understood. Northwatch Station 9. Do you understand the instruction? I understand. Good. Harlan out. I sat in the radio room with my back against the north wall. Outside, the thing wearing Daniel Cross's appearance knocked on the door again. 1 knock. I counted the seconds. 2 knocks, I counted the seconds. 3 knocks. I did not move. I know you can hear me, it said. Its voice was still friendly, but now there was something beneath it. Something like static. I know the rules too. 3 knocks, right? 3 knocks and you have to answer. So answer me. I gave no reply. I'm cold, it said. I'm so cold. I've been cold for 33 days. The glacier isn't a place, you know. The glacier is a door, and doors open both ways. I pressed my hands over my ears and shut my eyes. I remained like that until 1:45 a.m. Then I opened my eyes and fixed them on my hands. I did not look toward the northern tree line. The thing outside the door kept talking through most of the night. Sometimes its voice was Daniel Cross's, sometimes it was Petra Walsh's. Once, only briefly, it sounded like my mother, dead for 3 years, asking why I had taken a job so far away from home. I did not respond. I did not open the door. At 4:31 a.m., the sky started to grow lighter. At 4:47 a.m., I looked through the window. The porch was empty. There were no footprints in the frost. I waited until dawn had fully arrived. Then I went to the recovery shelter, carrying my radio and my flashlight. Daniel Cross was lying on the cot. He was breathing. His eyes were open, staring up at the ceiling. When I opened the door, he slowly sat upright. What time is it? He asked. 4:00 a.m. I need to complete your intake processing. Okay, he rubbed his face. I had the strangest dreams. I retrieved the registry binder from the north cabinet and checked his permit number. K48927 correct. I confirmed his emergency contact. Owen, his roommate in Fairbanks. Correct. I counted the items in his pack. 19. His manifest listed 17, 2 extra, with intolerance. His boots were coated in glacier silt and mud. I waited. By then the sun was fully above the horizon, shining at an angle through the shelter window. Daniel Cross cast a shadow. I processed him. I radioed for an evacuation. Then I brought him back to the station and gave him food and water. I did not tell him why he had been required to spend the night in the shelter. He did not ask. He seemed dazed, which was normal. He had been lost near the glacier for 33 days. Some missing hikers returned wrong, others returned right. And your job was to know the difference. And the float plane carried Daniel Cross away at 9:43 a.m. I spent the remainder of the day counting supplies and writing my incident report. When Harlan arrived with the supply drop 2 days later, he read the report without saying anything. Then he handed me another sheet of paper. Amendments, he said. Effective immediately. I read the new additions. There were 8. 13. If an MP subject appears at the station door while an identical subject has been confirmed inside the recovery shelter, do not acknowledge the subject at the door, either verbally or visually, until dawn. Do not open the door under any circumstances. 14. If any subject refers to the glacier as a door or uses similar terminology, radio channel 4 with code rift and wait for instructions. Do not engage in conversation. 15. If any subject imitates the voice of a known deceased person, cover your ears and repeat your service number aloud until the mimicry ends. Do not answer any questions asked in the imitated voice. 16. Effective immediately. Every MP recovery from within 3 miles of the glacier requires verification by 2 rangers. If you are alone, the subject must remain in the recovery shelter for a minimum of 72 hours before processing. 17. From sunset until dawn, the recovery shelter door must now be locked from the outside. During those hours, key 7 must be kept inside the station safe. Do not keep key 7 in your pocket after dark. 18. If the recovery shelter light goes out between sunset and 4:30 a.m. 2. Do not approach the shelter to investigate. Radio channel 4 using code eclipse and wait for instructions. 19. If you hear your own voice calling to you from outside the station, do not respond. Do not investigate. Barricade the door and radio channel 4 immediately. 20. The observation ban concerning the northern tree line has been extended. Effective immediately. Do not look toward the northern tree line between 1:30 a.m. and 2:45 a.m. I taped the amendments beside the original list. There's been more activity near the glacier, Harlan said. He was refilling the flare cabinet, keeping his eyes away from me. The cross incident fits a pattern we've encountered before. 16/2019. Now this. Every few years, something comes down from the ice. We don't know what it is. We don't need to know. We only need to know how to deal with it. What happens when someone doesn't follow the rules? He stopped restocking the cabinet. Then he looked at me. You read the archives. I read the archives. Then you know. I did know. Sandra Cole, gone after answering the second knock. Garrett, found walking along Deadfall Trail 7 with no memory of his own name. Petra Walsh. Fingernails torn away, 6 hours missing from her memory. The rules work, Harlan said. They've worked for 14 years, that's all that matters. I nodded. He left the following morning. I was alone again. The next 3 weeks passed quietly. April faded into May and the daylight lasted longer. That gave me more time to verify shadows. That made processing easier. I recorded 2 more MP recoveries, a lost day hiker, an elderly man who had wandered from a guided tour. Both were clean, their permit numbers matched. They remembered their emergency contacts, they cast shadows, their boots were dirty. I began to relax. That was my first mistake. Day 54 at 10:36 p. Soon the light in the recovery shelter went out. I was in the radio room updating the weather log when I saw it happen. 1 second, the light was burning. A warm yellow glow visible through the southwest-facing window. The next second, there was only darkness. I checked the clock. Sunset had been at 9:48 p.m. The time was now 10:36 p.m. The light had remained on for 48 minutes after sunset. It should have stayed lit until 4:30 a.m. I picked up the radio. Channel 4. This is Northwatch Station 9. Code eclipse. Recovery shelter light out at 10:36 p.m. Awaiting instruction. The radio released a hiss of static. Then nothing. Channel 4. This is Northwatch Station 9. Repeat. Code eclipse. Please respond. Static. I switched to Channel 9. Static. I tried every channel from 2 through 8. Every one of them gave me static. I checked the radio's battery level. 3%. I examined the antenna connection. Secure. Then I checked the weather. Clear skies, no precipitation. Wind coming from the southwest at 7 miles per hour. Nothing that should have been interfering with the radio. I tried Channel 4 again. This is Northwatch Station 9, Code Eclipse. Does anyone copy? A voice emerged through the static. It was not Harlan. It was not dispatch. It was my own voice. speaking words I had never said. Northwatch Station 9. This is Northwatch Station 9. I'm coming inside. Open the door. I shut off the radio. For a long moment, I remained seated in the darkness, listening to the sound of my own breathing. Then I stood, went to the station door and checked the locks. 3 locks, all secured. I dragged the heavy filing cabinet across the room and positioned it in front of the door. The amendments had been clear. If I heard my own voice calling from outside, I was supposed to barricade the door and radio Channel 4. But Channel 4 had been compromised, the radio had been compromised, and the recovery shelter light had gone out, which meant something was wrong at the shelter. I could not investigate until dawn. I had 7 hours to wait. At 11:15 p.m., someone knocked on the door. 1 knock. I counted the seconds. In seconds. Seconds. 2 minutes. 2 knocks. I kept counting. Seconds. 3 minutes. 4 minutes. 3 knocks. I stood in the middle of the room. Protocol 9 said I had to respond after the 3rd knock, but Protocol 19 said not to respond if I heard my own voice calling from outside. And I had heard my own voice. Did that rule override the 3rd knock rule? The amendments did not say. Hello? A voice called from outside. It was a woman's voice, not mine. Is anyone there? I'm lost. I need help. I did not reply. Please, the voice said. I've been walking for hours. I saw the light go out in the little building, but I came here instead. Please open the door. I checked the clock. 11:22 p.m. What is your permit number? I called through the door. Silence. I need your permit number before I can help you. I don't have a permit, the voice answered. I wasn't supposed to be out here. I got lost. Please, I'm so cold. There was no one on my missing persons board who matched a woman with no permit. The only remaining case was Claire Ashby. She had been missing for months. Her file was in the presumed stack. What is your name? My name is Evelyn. My name is Evelyn. I stepped away from the door. What is your emergency contact's first name? Evelyn. A longer silence followed. Then she answered, I don't have an emergency contact. I was traveling alone. Please, I'm so cold I can't feel my hands. I opened Claire Ashby's file. Emergency contact. Her sister in Portland. First name, Diane. I'm sorry, I said. I can't open the door until dawn. There is a shelter 214 yards southwest of here. Go there and wait. I tried the shelter, the voice said. The door is locked, and there's something inside. Something that isn't right. I closed my eyes. The recovery shelter door was supposed to be locked. I had locked it myself at sunset following Protocol 17 and placed the key inside the station safe. What do you mean? Something inside. It looks like me, the voice replied. But it isn't me. It's lying on the cot, staring at the ceiling. It doesn't blink. It doesn't breathe. Please let me in. I can't stay outside with that thing. I said nothing. Please, the voice said. Its tone shifted. It became flat. Please, I'm so cold. I've been cold for months. The glacier took me, and now it won't let me go. You have to help me. Code rift. She had referred to the glacier in terms consistent with Protocol 14. I'm sorry, I said. I can't help you tonight. Go to the shelter. Wait until dawn. The shelter is locked. Then wait outside the shelter. I'll die. Then wait. The voice on the other side of the door fell silent for a long time. Then it laughed. The sound was wrong. Too high. Too long. Its pitch rose and fell like a signal searching for a frequency. You're good, it said. You follow the rules. I like that. The last one didn't follow the rules. Petra didn't follow the rules. Do you know what happened to Petra? I did not respond. I showed her what I really looked like, the voice said, just for 11 seconds. That's all it took. 11 seconds. And she couldn't remember her own name for 3 days. I wonder how long it would take for you. I lowered myself to the floor with my back against the wall. I covered my ears with both hands. I shut my eyes. Outside, the voice kept talking. It spoke about the glacier. It spoke about the door. It spoke about what waited on the other side, not in words I could understand, in sounds that felt like words, sounds that crept into my skull and tried to settle there. At 1:28 a.m., Protocol 4 came back to me. Under the amendments, the ban on looking toward the north tree line began at 1:30 a.m., but the station door faced south. Was looking at the door the same as looking north? I kept my eyes closed anyway. At 1:31 a.m., I heard footsteps circling the station. Slow footsteps, deliberate footsteps. Frost crunching beneath them. They went around the building once. Then twice. Then 3 times. During the 4th circuit, they stopped directly below the north window. I did not look. I can wait, the voice said. It was no longer coming from the door. Now it came from the north window. I've waited for months. I've waited 11 years. Time doesn't work the same way for me anymore, but you only have until dawn. And dawn is so far away. I recited my service number aloud again and again until my voice was gone and my throat was raw. I counted seconds. I counted minutes. I counted the 94 flares in the cabinet, the 12 keys on the ring, the 7 days remaining until the next supply drop. At 2:46 a.m., I opened my eyes. The ban on looking toward the north tree line had ended 1 minute earlier. Nothing was outside the north window. Nothing was on the porch. At some point during the last hour, the footsteps had stopped. I had not noticed when. I waited until dawn. At 6:02 a.m., I pulled the filing cabinet away from the door. At 6:14 a.m., I opened all 3 locks and pulled the door open. The porch was empty. There were no footprints in the frost. I made my way to the recovery shelter. Key 7 was still secured inside the safe. I took it out, unlocked the shelter door and looked inside. The cot was empty. The blankets had been folded. The heater was off. But on the metal desk beside the registry binder, someone had placed a photograph. It showed a woman standing at the edge of the glacier. She was smiling. A camera hung around her neck. On the back, in handwriting I did not recognize, someone had written, "Claire Ashby, Day 1. She was so happy to be here." I placed the photograph in Claire's case folder. Then I contacted Harlanby Radio and reported what had happened. He listened without interrupting me. When I finished, he asked only one question. "Did you open the door?" "No." "Good." In the next supply drop was 6 days away. When Harlan returned, he brought ammunition, batteries, and a new set of instructions. They were called emergency protocols. They applied only under specific circumstances. Extended radio blackout, power failure lasting multiple nights, or what Harlan referred to as sustained contact. The new protocols were numbered 21 through 25. 21. During an extended radio blackout lasting more than 4 hours, retreat to the station's interior room. The room with no exterior windows. Seal the door with weather stripping. Do not leave the room until radio communication has been restored or dawn arrives, whichever happens first. 22. During a multi-night power failure, the recovery shelter is to be considered non-operational. Do not process any MP subjects until power has been restored. Direct all subjects to wait at the trailhead marker located 300 yards southeast of the station. Do not approach the trailhead marker after dark. 23. During sustained contact, defined as verbal communication with an unverified subject lasting longer than 30 minutes, stop all response and begin silence protocol. Silence protocol requires the following: no spoken words, no written communication visible from outside, no lights inside the main station. Continue until contact has stopped for at least 2 uninterrupted hours. 24. If you observe 2 or more subjects who appear identical, do not engage with either one. Retreat to the interior room immediately. If communication is possible, radio channel forcing code mirror. If communication is not possible, wait until dawn and verify both subjects using standard intake procedure. Process only the subject who passes every verification check. Do not process the other subject. Do not explain why. 25. If the glacier moves more than 50 yards toward the station during any 24-hour period, evacuate immediately by Trail 3. Do not wait for extraction by float plane. Do not return to the station. Radio Channel 9 using code Whitefall, then proceed to the emergency cache sheet mile marker 7. Wait there for rescue. I read Protocol 25 3 times. Has the glacier ever advanced? I asked. Harlan looked at me. His expression revealed nothing. Once, he said, in 2019, 53 yards, 16 hours, the ranger on duty didn't evacuate. Petra Walsh. Petra Walsh. What happened to her? She's alive, Harlan said. She's in a care facility in Coldwater. She can't sleep unless the lights are on. She can't look at photographs of mountains. She can't remember what her job was or why she was out here, but she's alive because she followed the rules, because she followed most of the rules. He lifted his pack. The float plane is waiting. I'll be back in 6 days. Radio check every 12 hours. Channel 9 for emergencies. I watched him walk down to the dock. I watched the float plane arise from the water and vanish beyond the ridgeline. Then I went back inside and read the protocols again. On day 73, a trainee arrived. His name was Liam Porter. Liam was 24 years old, newly graduated from the seasonal ranger program, enthusiastic in a way that made my chest ache. He had specifically requested backcountry assignments. He wanted to see the real Alaska. I gave him a tour of the station. I showed him the radio room, the supply closet, the basement door that remained locked after dark. I took him to the recovery shelter and explained the procedures. Then I showed him the rules. He read them without speaking. As he continued, his expression shifted, from confusion to disbelief to something that might have been fear. "This is real," he asked. "It's real. You've seen these things. The things described in the rules. I've seen enough." For a long time, he said nothing. Then he asked, "What happens if I don't follow them?" I gave him the incident archives. "Read these tonight, then decide whether you still want to stay." He read them. He stayed. For the first 2 weeks, Liam followed every procedure exactly. He confirmed permit numbers before making eye contact. He counted the contents of packs. He verified shadows before sundown. He did not answer the first knock. He did not answer the second. During the North Tree Line observation ban, he covered his ears. But Liam still possessed a kind of curiosity I had lost. He asked questions I had trained myself not to ask. Why did the glaciers end people back wrong? What was beyond the other side of the door? How had the rules been written in the first place? The rules work, I told him. That's all that matters. But someone had to discover them, someone had to test them. How many people died before they got them right? I had no answer, and I did not want one. On day 89, at 1:47 a.m., Liam looked toward the northern tree line. I was inside the interior room following Protocol 21, after a radio blackout that had begun at 9:15 p.m. The blackout lasted 5 hours and 31 minutes. That was enough to trigger the retreat protocol. I sealed the interior room door with weather stripping and waited. Liam was supposed to be inside the room with me. But at 1:32 a.m., he said he needed to use the bathroom. The bathroom was built against an exterior wall. It had a small window facing north. "Hold it," I said. "The band started 2 minutes ago. I'll be 30 seconds. I won't look outside." Liam, but he was already gone. At 1:47 a.m., I heard him scream. The scream lasted 11 seconds. I know because I counted every one of them. Then there was silence. I did not leave the interior room. Protocol 21 was clear. Do not exit until radio contact is restored or dawn arrives. Liam had broken protocol. At 2:46 a.m., The radio crackled back to life. Northwatch Station 9. This is dispatch, radio check. Northwatch Station 9, receiving trainee, Porter observed the northern tree lining at 1:47 a.m. during the observation ban. Status unknown, requesting immediate guidance. There was a pause. Then dispatch responded, copy, do not exit the interior room until dawn. At first light, verify trainee Porter status assessing standard protocol, do not engage. If he is unresponsive or displays any anomalies, dispatch out. I waited until 6:03 a.m. Then I removed the seal from the interior room door and went to the bathroom. Liam was sitting on the floor with his back against the wall. His eyes were open, fixed on nothing. Both hands were pressed over his ears. Liam. He gave no response. Liam, can you hear me? His lips moved. No sound came out. I lowered myself into a crouch in front of him. Liam, I need you to give me your service number. He blinked slowly, as though each eyelid weighed 1,000 pounds. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, he spoke. It isn't a glacier. It's a mouth. The mountain is eating, and we're standing in its teeth. Liam, your service number. He shook his head. I saw it. I saw what was waiting. His voice trembled. It's patient. It's so patient. It's been waiting since before the trees, before the ice, before anything. And it's hungry. It's always hungry. I radioed for evacuation. The float plane arrived at 10:14 a.m. Liam made it to the dock on his own. But he never spoke. He never looked at me. He never looked at anything except the ground immediately in front of his boots. At the edge of the dock, he stopped. The rules aren't protection, he said. His voice was flat, empty. They're only a menu. They're teaching it. What we do, how we react, how we can be taken. Every rule is another dish. Every protocol is a recipe. And someday it's going to have enough recipes to cook all of us. Then he boarded the float plane. He never looked back. I completed the incident report. I recorded the precise length of his exposure. 11 seconds. I recorded the exact location. Bathroom north window. I wrote down his words as accurately as I could remember them. I did not know whether they were true. I was no longer certain. That mattered. That night, the glacier advanced 17 yards. By the following morning, it had withdrawn to its original position. I measured twice to be certain. After Liam was gone, I was alone again. Days lengthened into weeks. June turned into July. The sun remained above the horizon for 20 hours at a time, and that made the rules easier to obey. I could verify shadows until almost midnight. The observation, ban in the northern tree line, still remained in effect, but the darkness during that window was less complete. But the rules no longer felt like enough. I began writing my own amendments, unofficial notes, added in the margins of my field notebook. I started timing the footsteps that circled the station. They always came between midnight and 3 a.m. Every rotation was exactly 94 steps. I began counting the knocks. Sometimes there was one, sometimes there were two, never four, never more than 3. I began cataloging the voices. By the middle of July, I had documented 17 distinct voices. 3 belonged to people who had appeared on my missing persons board. 2 belonged to rangers who had worked at the station before me. 1 belonged to my mother. 1 belonged to me. On day 112, Claire Ashby returned. I spotted her at 4:23 p.m., walking down from the ridge line in Trail 4. She moved slowly, consistent with exhaustion. A camera hung around her neck, matching the description in her file. She was smiling. I went to the recovery shelter and waited. She arrived at 5:07 p.m. The sun was still high. There would be hours of daylight left for shadow verification. "Hello," she called. "Is anyone there? I'm Claire Ashby. I filed a permit in March. I got lost near the glacier. Stop there, please. My voice remained steady. I had done this before. Remove your pack and place it on the ground. Then read me your permit number from your registration card. She slipped her pack from her shoulders. Then she reached into her jacket pocket and took out a laminated card, K39421. I checked the registry. The number matched. The permit had been filed in early March, months earlier. Protocol 16. Any MP recovery from within 3 miles of the glacier required verification by 2 rangers. If only 1 ranger was present, the subject had to remain inside the recovery shelter for at least 72 hours before processing. I was alone. Ma'am, what is the first name of your emergency contact? Diane. She smiled. My sister. She's probably worried sick. Correct. Please turn and face the sun. She turned. The afternoon sunlight was bright and direct. Claire Ashby cast a shadow. It had the right length, the right shape, the right opacity. Open your pack, please. I need to count the contents. She opened it. I counted 24 items. Her manifest listed 23, 1 extra, within tolerance. Her boots were coated with glacier silt. Everything checked out. Permit number, emergency contact, shadow pack count, boot condition. She passed every test. But Claire Ashby had been missing for months, far longer than 72 hours. Protocol 12 stated that the rules could not be discussed with anyone who had been missing for more than 72 hours. And she was smiling. Months lost near a glacier. And she was smiling as though she had just returned from a pleasant afternoon hike. Ma'am, you need to remain in the shelter until the next supply drop. I cannot process you at this time. For a fraction of a second, her smile faltered. Then it returned. Warm patient. Of course, she said. Whatever the protocol requires. Then she added, but may I ask why? Hours. Surely if I passed every test. I did not answer. Protocol 12, right? She said. The rules. You aren't allowed to discuss the rules with me. I took a step backward. I spent months out there. Months in the cold, in the ice, in the dark. Do you know what I learned? I did not reply. I learned that the rules aren't really rules. They're negotiations. I started walking back toward the station. Whoever wrote them, whoever figured all of this out, they weren't protecting people. They were making deals. I did not run. If we give you this, you leave us alone for a while. If we perform this ritual, you take someone else instead. I kept walking. Every rule is a payment. Every protocol is a price. The price is going up, Claire called after me. It's been going up for years. The rules keep getting longer. The procedures keep getting stricter. The waiting periods keep being extended. I reached the station porch. Do you know what that means? I went inside. I locked the door. It means it's getting hungrier, Claire said. Her voice should not have been able to reach me from that distance. The shelter stood 214 yards away, but I heard her as clearly as though she were standing beside me. And eventually, no rule will be enough. Eventually, the price will become too high, and then it will come to collect. I sealed the door with weather stripping. Then I retreated to the interior room. I keyed Channel 4. Channel 4. This is Northwatch Station 9 MP. Subject has passed all verification checks but is exhibiting anomalous behavior, requesting immediate guidance. Every test had been passed, but nothing about this felt right. Dispatch answered. Copy, maintain shelter containment for 72 hours. Do not process subject until secondary verification from Harlan at the supply drop. Do not engage in conversation. Do not respond to questions. Dispatch out. I waited. Claire remained inside the shelter. Every 8 hours, I brought her food and water. I left the supplies outside the door. I never went inside. I never spoke to her. After the first day, she stopped trying to speak to me. Whenever I came near, she only smiled, that patient smile, that knowing smile. The 72 hours passed. On day 115, Harlan arrived with the supply drop. I briefed Hyman what had happened. He read through my notes, reviewed my records, then walked toward the recovery shelter with a hard look on his face. I watched from the station porch. Harlan went inside the shelter. He remained there for 43 minutes. When he emerged, his face had gone pale. She passed, he said, all of them, every test, permit number, emergency contact, shadow, pack count, boot condition. I ran 3 additional tests we don't usually perform. Blood oxygen, pupil response, verbal recall of specific details from her permit application. She passed every one. He turned his eyes toward the shelter. Through the window, Claire was visible, sitting on the cot and smiling. No, he said. We don't. But the protocols don't account for this. He handed me a fresh sheet of paper. New amendment, effective immediately. Anyone missing for more than 30 days is automatically refused, regardless of test results. We evacuate them to cold water for extended observation. We do not process them here. I looked down at the amendment. It was numbered 26. 26. Any MP subject missing for more than 30 days is classified as an extended recovery and cannot be processed at Northwatch Station 9. Transport immediately to the cold water facility for secondary evaluation. Do not explain. The reason for transport. Do not answer questions regarding the evaluation process. What happens at the cold water facility? Harlan did not answer. Harlan, what happens to them? He started walking back toward the float plane. You don't need to know. You only need to follow the rules. Claire Ashby was evacuated at 6:47 p.m. She went without resistance, still smiling as the float plane arose into the air. She pressed her face against the window and stared at me. She did not wave. She did not say anything. She only watched me with those patient eyes until the aircraft vanished beyond the ridgeline. I never learned what happened to her. I never asked. As summer went on, the days began to shorten. The darkness surrounding the observation ban lasted longer. Shadows became more difficult to verify, and the rules that had felt manageable in June grew more exhausting with each passing week. But I followed them. Every rule, every amendment, every protocol. I verified. I counted. I measured. I waited. I sealed doors. I covered windows. I listened to the voices outside and I did not answer. I did not respond. I did not engage. On day 143, a letter arrived from the regional office. My contract was due for renewal. They offered me another year at the same rate or I could transfer to a station closer to town. Standard duties. No special supplements. I spent a long time considering it. Then I wrote my response. Renewal accepted. And the glacier was 16 yards closer than it had been when I arrived. I measured it every morning. On some days it moved forward. On others it drew back but averaged over time. It was coming toward us, toward the station, toward the recovery shelter, toward me. I did not know what would happen once it reached us. The rules did not say. Maybe no rule existed for that. Maybe, when the glacier finally reached the station, the negotiations would end and the payment would come due. Until then, my job was to wait, to follow procedure, and to make certain that the next person understood what this place required. The September supply drop brought a new trainee. Her name was Nora Hayes. She was 27 years old, former military, practical in a way that reminded me of myself when I first arrived. She did not ask unnecessary questions. She did not speculate about what the rules meant or where they had come from. She read them, nodded, and asked when the first patrol started. I began her orientation that night. Rules 1 through 12, Amendments 13 through 20, Amendment 26, Emergency Protocols 21 through 25. She took notes. She asked questions when clarification was needed. She showed no disbelief, no skepticism. At the end, she asked one question. Does anyone ever get used to this? I thought about the footsteps moving around the station, 94 steps in every rotation. Night after night, ever since I had started counting them. I thought about the voices I no longer recognized as individual people, but had begun recording as data points. I thought about the smile on Claire Ashby's face, the emptiness in Liam Porter's eyes, the abandoned boots in Sandra Cole's porch. You become precise, I said. That isn't the same as becoming used to it. She nodded. Good. I don't want to get used to it. I only want to survive. Then follow the rules, even if they're payments, even if they're negotiations. I looked at her. She was watching me carefully, measuring my reaction, especially then, I said, because the alternative is paying a price you cannot afford. That night at 11:18 p.m. Someone knocked on the station door. One knock. Nora looked at me. I shook my head. We waited. 2 knocks. We waited. 3 knocks. I stood. I walked to the door. Nora followed, 2 steps behind me. Who's there? I called. Northwatch Station 9. This is dispatch. It was a voice I did not recognize. We received your radio check. Is everything all right up there? I looked at Nora. She raised one eyebrow. When did we send a radio check? I whispered. We didn't. I crossed to the desk and keyed the radio. Channel 4. This is Northwatch Station 9. Verify last radio contact. Static answered first. Then Harlan's voice came through. Northwatch Station 9. Last contact was at 2 p.m., just over 9 hours ago. No subsequent traffic logged. I looked back toward the door. Northwatch Station 9. This is dispatch. The voice outside repeated, Please respond. We need to verify your status. The voice sounded patient, friendly, almost right, but dispatch did not come to the station. Dispatch was in Coldwater, 100 miles away. And dispatch did not knock. They used the radio. Don't respond, I told Nora. Don't open the door. I wasn't going to. We withdrew to the interior room. We sealed the door with weather stripping. We waited. Outside, the thing that was not dispatch walked around the station. Exactly 94 steps. Then it stopped. You're learning, it said. Its voice had changed. It was no longer pretending to be dispatch. It no longer sounded like anyone I knew. It sounded like wind passing through a crevasse, like ice splitting under pressure, like something ancient, patient, and hungry. The rules are becoming harder to follow, it said. More amendments, more protocols, more exceptions, conditions, and time windows. Someday there will be too many to remember. It paused. Someday you will make a mistake and I will be waiting. Nora looked at me. Her expression was calm. It's right, she whispered. The rules are getting complicated. Eventually someone will slip. Then we make them simpler, I said. We find what matters, the essential parts, and we remove everything else. Can we do that? I did not know. But I knew we had to try. When dawn arrived, the porch was empty. No footprints, no evidence, only the station, the recovery shelter 14 yards away, and the glacier resting on the horizon like a patient predator. I spent the following week rewriting the rules. I reviewed every amendment, every protocol. I reduced them to their essential principles. No repetition, no exception without a clear trigger, no condition that could not be tested in less than 60 seconds. Nora helped me. Her military background had given her a mind for logistics, for breaking complicated procedures down into their necessary parts. Together we produced a new document. It was not intended to replace the old rules. It was a distillation, something that could be memorized, something that could be obeyed under pressure. The essential rules numbered 9. The conditional amendments numbered 9. The emergency protocols remained at 5. I transmitted the new document to Harlan by radio. For 3 days, he gave no response. Then he answered, Approved. Distribute to all incoming personnel. wrote the new rules out by hand, in clean block lettering on laminated paper. Paper that could withstand weather, blood, time. I made 12 copies. I placed them in the station safe, in the desk at the recovery shelter, in the emergency cash sheet mile marker 7, and I prepared a clean set of rules for whoever came next. Because someday I would leave, by choice, by evacuation, or by something worse, and someone else would take my place. Whoever came next would need to understand what this place demanded. They would need to understand quickly, without confusion, without any margin for error. Or, these were the rules I prepared. 1. Every returning hiker must be processed at the recovery shelter, never at the main station. The shelter stands 214 yards southwest of the station. Key 7 opens it. 2. Confirm the permit number before making eye contact. Confirm the first name of the emergency contact. Confirm a shadow before sundown. Compare the contents of the pack with the registered manifest. A difference of 3 items or fewer is acceptable. If the difference exceeds 3 items, processing requires a second ranger. Check the condition of the boots against the terrain. All required checks must be completed. 3. Never answer anyone who uses your name before you have introduced yourself. 4. Between 1:30 a.m. and 2:45 a.m., do not look toward the northern tree line. Look at your hands, look at the floor, or close your eyes. 5. If someone knocks, answer only after the 3rd knock, unless another rule requires silence or forbids engagement. Never answer after 1 knock or 2. 6. Do not acknowledge anyone approaching from Deadfall Trail 7. 7. Do not discuss these rules with anyone who has been missing for longer than 72 hours. 8. If the light in the recovery shelter goes out between sunset and 4:30 a.m., do not approach the shelter until dawn. 9. If anyone describes the glacier as a door, transmit code rift by radio and end the conversation. Conditional amendments. If identical subjects appear at the same time, retreat to the interior room. Radio code mirror. Wait until dawn. Process only the subject who passes every test. B. If radio blackout lasts longer than 4 hours, retreat to the interior room. Seal the door. Wait until contact is restored or dawn arrives. C. If sustained verbal contact lasts longer than 30 minutes, begin silence protocol. No speaking. No visible written communication. No lights. Continue until contact has stopped for 2 hours. D. If a missing person returns from within 3 miles of the glacier, process only at dawn. If you are alone, contain the subject in the shelter for 72 hours unless Amendment E applies. EE. If a missing person has been gone for more than 30 days, evacuate immediately to Coldwater. This instruction overrides local processing and containment requirements. Do not process locally. If you hear your own voice outside, barricade the door. Radio Channel 4. Do not investigate. G. If any subject imitates the voice of a known deceased person, cover your ears and repeat your service number aloud until the mimicry stops. Do not answer any questions asked in the imitated voice. H. From sunset until dawn. Lock the recovery shelter door from the outside and secure key 7 inside the station safe. Do not carry key 7 after dark. If the glacier advances 50 yards, within 24 hours, evacuate by Trail 3 to mile marker 7. I laminated the pages. I placed them wherever the next person might need to find them. Then I returned to my patrols, my radio checks, my inventory counts, and the endless waiting. Nora remained through September and into October. She obeyed the rules exactly and never complained. She never made the mistakes Liam had made. She never asked the questions I had learned not to ask. But late one night in October, she found me sitting on the station porch staring at the distant glacier. "It's closer," she said. 8 yards since I arrived. 7.5. "Does that worry you?" I considered the question. I thought about the rules, the prices, the negotiations. I thought about what Liam had said, that the rules were a menu, that each protocol was a recipe. And I thought about what Claire had said, that the price was rising, that eventually no rule would be enough. Worry isn't the right word, I said. I'm not worried. I'm prepared. There's a difference. What's the difference? Worry assumes you can change the outcome. Preparation assumes you can survive it. She was silent for a moment. Then she asked, "What if you can't survive it? What if the rules stop working?" I turned toward her. The lights from the station left her face in shadow, her body outlined against them. "Then we write new rules," I said. "We adapt, we negotiate, we determine the new price and decide whether we are willing to pay it. And if the price is too high," I looked back toward the glacier. It rested motionless on the horizon, patient. A white wound, in the landscape that never healed, only continued to spread. "Then we walk away," I said. "We leave. We let someone else take over the station, and we hope the rules we wrote are enough to keep them safe." Nora nodded. She said nothing more. She went back inside. I remained on the porch until the cold became unbearable. Then I went inside as well. The next supply drop brought my transfer orders. I had requested reassignment to the Coldwater office. Administrative work. No backcountry duty. The request had been approved. My replacement was due to arrive in 11 days. I spent those 11 days preparing the station. I counted every supply. I labeled every cabinet. I tested every radio frequency. I updated the logbook with detailed notes about the patterns that kept repeating. The footsteps, 94 steps per rotation, always clockwise. The knocks, most frequent between 11:15 and 11:45 p.m., always in groups of 3. The voices, 17 documented, 3 of them had appeared on my missing persons board. And I wrote an orientation letter for the new ranger. It was not required. There was no protocol instructing me to do it, but it seemed necessary. Some things could not be contained in rules. Some things had to be passed from one person to another. The letter read, "Welcome to Northwatch Station 9. By now you have read the rules, and you are probably asking yourself what the hell you have walked into. I asked myself the same thing 207 days ago when I stepped off the float plane and saw this place for the first time. I am not going to explain what is out here. The rules already explain enough, and anything more I said would only be speculation. But I can tell you what I learned. Follow the rules. Not because you understand them. You will not. Follow them because they work. Every rule exists for a reason. Every amendment was written in blood. The protocols are not arbitrary. They are the gathered knowledge of everyone who served here before you, reduced to procedures you can carry out without thinking. Do not ask why. Why does not help. Why creates doubt. Doubt creates hesitation, and hesitation creates openings. The things out here can sense hesitation, the way a shark senses blood in water. If you hesitate, they will know. Trust your counts, trust your clocks, trust your measurements. Out here, data is the only reliable thing. Your senses will deceive you. Your instincts will deceive you. The numbers will not. If something feels wrong but the numbers are correct, trust the numbers. If something feels right but the numbers fail, trust the numbers. Take care of yourself. Eat, sleep, move. The rules will exhaust you. The isolation will be worse. If you neglect your body, your mind will follow. And if your mind fails, the rules will not save you. Finally, know when to leave. This job will change you. It changed me. I arrived practical, skeptical, and confident. I am leaving paranoid, precise, and tired. That is the cost of surviving. But there is a line, a point where the cost becomes too great. If you feel yourself approaching that line, request a transfer. Do not wait. Do not assume you can handle it. The people who believe they could handle it are the ones who ended up walking Deadfall Trail 7 without remembering their own names. Good luck. Follow the rules. Survive. I left the letter on the desk in the radio room. I packed my equipment. I said goodbye to Nora, who would remain as the secondary ranger, and on day 208, I climbed aboard the float plane and left North Watch Station 9 behind. The glacier was 19 yards closer than it had been when I first arrived. I recorded that fact in my final logbook entry. I did not write what I thought it meant. From the air, the station looked tiny, a small wooden structure surrounded by endless forest, diminished by mountains that had existed before people and would remain long after we were gone. The recovery shelter was no more than a speck. The glacier looked like a white tongue stretching down from the peaks. Patient, slow, hungry. I watched until North Watch Station Nina vanished behind the ridgeline. Then I shut my eyes and tried to remember what it had felt like to be someone who did not flinch at a knock, someone who did not count footsteps, someone who did not measure shadows, verify permits, and transmit radio codes in a precise order for a precise reason. I could not remember. That person no longer existed. The float planet touched down in cold water at 4:37 p.m. I stepped onto solid concrete, surrounded by buildings, people, traffic, and noise. It all felt foreign, like a language I had forgotten how to speak. Harlan was waiting at the terminal. He seemed older than I remembered, or maybe I had simply failed to notice before. "How do you feel?" he asked. I thought about the question. I thought about 208 days of rules, procedures, and constant vigilance. I thought about Claire Ashby's patient smile, Liam Porter's empty eyes, the voice that had sounded like my mother, asking why I had taken a job so far from home. "Precise," I said. "I feel precise." He nodded as though he understood. Maybe he did. Maybe every ranger who survived North Watch Station 9 came away feeling exactly the same. "The office work starts Monday," he said. "Normal hours, normal duties, no supplements. Okay, it will take time to adjust. Give yourself that time." "Okay." He drove me to a motel near the harbor. I checked in, entered my room, and sat motionless in the bed for almost an hour. Then I stood, closed the curtains, and inspected the locks on the door. 3 locks. I secured every one of them. I set alarms on my watch for 1:30 a.m. and 2:45 a.m. I positioned the bed so I could not accidentally look through the window during those hours. I counted the items in my bag. 17. I would remember that number. I lay down and closed my eyes, but I did not sleep. I listened to the city outside, cars, voices, distant music, and I waited for knocking that never came. At dawn, I finally allowed myself to relax. Old habits, I told myself, they would fade. But some part of me knew they would not. Some part of me understood that the rules were no longer only procedures. They had become a way of looking at the world, a way of knowing that some things were safe and some things were not, and sometimes the difference could not be seen until it was already too late. Some part of me knew I would spend the rest of my life counting, measuring, verifying, checking shadows, recording times, listening for the third knock. That was the price of survival. That was the payment I had made. And somewhere behind me, at North Watch Station 9, the glacier was still advancing. The things in the forest were still circling. The voices were still calling. It was someone else's problem now. I hope they followed the rules. 3 months after I left North Watch Station 9, received a letter from Nora. It was handwritten, which was unusual. Most communication came by radio or email, and it was brief. The new ranger was named Owen Hall. He had arrived as scheduled, completed orientation, and seemed capable. He followed the rules precisely. Asked no unnecessary questions, but something had changed. Nora wrote that activity had increased after I left. More footsteps, more knocking, more voices. The glacier had advanced 34 yards in 90 days, more than 3 times its average rate. And there was something new. Last week, she wrote, she had found a note inside the recovery shelter. It had not been there the night before. Neither she nor Owen had written it. The note said, "The old ranger left. The new ranger Came. The negotiation continues. The price is rising. One of you will pay. Soon. I read the note 3 times, then I folded it, placed it in a drawer, and tried not to think about what it meant. But late at night, and when sleep would not come, I found myself lying awake and counting footsteps that were not there, counting knocks that never sounded, counting the days since I had left, wondering whether my departure had been part of the negotiation, too, whether leaving had altered something, destabilized something, opened a door that should have remained closed. I did not know, could not know. The only thing I could do was follow the rules I had written for myself. Lock the doors, check the windows, do not look north between 1:30 and 2:45. Trust the numbers, survive. That was the job. That had always been the job. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice that sounded like my own whispered, "The price is rising." I did not answer. I never answer.